Okay, not unrelated. Let's turn the spotlight now. Georgian winds of change are definitely blowing, but in which direction? The government is saying they're heading west, but critics deem they're in fact rushing to the east. Natia Seskuria, Associate Fellow at the Royal United Services Institute, is joining us now live from Tbilisi on what the Foreign Agents Bill means for Georgia and the new old Cold War. Hello, Natia. Thank you so very much for speaking with us this evening. Let's begin with the basics. What is this bill?
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I'd like to mention that unfortunately today is a very sad, rather dark day for Georgian democracy, as the Georgian parliament has just passed a draft law on transparency, on the so-called transparency of the foreign influence in the first reading by 76 votes. So the proposed bill would label media and civil society organizations that are recipient of foreign funding, foreign grants as agents of foreign influence. The original bill has been submitted to the Georgian parliament by a parliamentary group called People's Power that consists of MPs who have formally left the ruling Georgian Dream Party. And very promptly, the ruling party expressed the will to support this bill. The bill has been framed as an attempt to adhere to the principles of openness and transparency, yet neither the Georgian population nor partner nations and the representatives of diplomatic services in Georgia have really bought this justification. And this law would require any organization that have received more than 20% of funding from the foreign countries, foreign or donor organizations, to register as foreign agents. This label itself, I think, bears certain rather very strong stigma that would set a very dangerous precedent at the time when Georgia is already facing a myriad of problems and the level of political polarization is very high at the moment.
Yeah, we've seen yesterday's scenes in Parliament with fist fights between lawmakers and major protests this evening as we speak in the capital where you're currently at. So the Georgian government is claiming it merely seeks to emulate America in its way of containing foreign influences, but the opposition is saying, well, it's almost identical to legislation in Russia. So who's right here? Both? Either? Neither?
Since the first draft of this law has been widely proclaimed as a so-called Russian law, with large numbers of activist civil society organizations as well as ordinary citizens expressing deep concern, a second version of the law has been proposed, the so-called American version of the law, that allegedly echoes the well-known American law FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, and the party that proposed this law claims that this is a word-by-word translation of this law. Yet, of course, the context is completely different, and FARA was introduced in 1938 when the U.S. was fighting against Nazism, and this bill was a response rise of foreign influence, in this case, Nazi and Soviet propaganda in the U.S. And even today, FARA covers the individuals and entities that are engaged in domestic lobbying and advocacy campaigns on behalf of the foreign governments, not entire NGO sector, as it is the case with this proposed law in Georgia. And there are, of course, exemptions when it comes to the organizations that are coming from the partner nations. And in the case of the Georgian law, of course, in Georgia, the fundamental problem is the Russian influence, Russian money, but this law does not really address this problem. The issue is that Georgia has now a historic momentum to reapproach to the European Union to get the candidacy status, and this law is fundamentally against the European values, and this has been reiterated by a number of foreign representatives starting from the United States, a number of ambassadors and representatives of the EU countries.